Have you ever had this happen to you? You find yourself randomly held up at an airport just for no good reason at all, and the only thing that saves you from the situation is the fact that you've played a key role in a hit TV show? Oh no? Guess that isn't a common thing for most people actually. So how did this happen to Joseph Quinn? What was the experience like? And how did his role as Eddie Munson save him? Find out by watching this video till the end. Alright, refresher course time. Who is Joseph Quinn? Well, turns out that Joseph Quinn is, and you're never going to believe this, an actor, a British actor at that. And he got his start working on shows in his native land after attending the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. Clearly having picked up a passion for acting from an early age, he was also dabbling in theater acting whilst partaking in his earliest TV roles. Said roles include some extremely British titles, such as Dickensian, Howard's End, and Catherine the Great, as well as being featured on the BBC shows Les Miserables and Strike. Before Stranger Things came around, the biggest thing he'd worked on was pretty easily Game of Thrones, where he had a minor role in a single episode in 2017. In 2022, he was added to the Stranger Things cast for season 4, where his recurring role as Eddie Eddie Munson, ended up being a breakout role for him. Featured in 9 episodes, Eddie ended up becoming a fan favorite on the show, and it led to Quinn becoming quite recognizable in a hurry. Sadly, very quick spoiler warning here. Sadly, it was ill-fated, as Eddie would end up dead by the end of the season, making it fairly unlikely that Quinn will be making a return to the show. I mean, it's a show with a lot of supernatural happenings, so nothing's technically impossible, but for now, it's looking like a long shot. At the same time, it's clear his stint on Stranger Things, however brief, made a pretty big impact on fans. So where was he going when he was detained? Funny thing about this, Joseph revealed this story on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and that's where he says he was headed at the time of the detainment. That is to say, he was on his way to NBC Studios in New York City for his appearance on The Tonight Show, and that's where he ended up getting held up by security. Seems pretty obvious that the guards there didn't recognize him, and when they questioned him on where he was going, well, he could only speak the truth. He told him that he was going to be on The Tonight Show, and well, the guards seemingly reacted to that about the same way they would if you or I had tried to tell them that. What possessed them to try and hold him for questioning is anyone's guess, but he remarked that he very nearly missed the show because of this, and if not for being recognized, may actually have. It's really kind of unfortunate for these security guards that it turned out that the young man was actually telling the truth, and subsequently would go on to have an immediate and perfect opportunity to publicly roast them for their blunder. Although by the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like he has too many hard feelings about it, even though he makes it sound like a fairly harrowing experience. Well, just what was the experience of being detained at the airport like for him? In his own words, Quinn was taken to what he described as a dungeon. Man, now that sure makes it sound harsh, doesn't it? It's honestly news to me that airports have dungeons at the ready. I can only imagine what he was taken to was some kind of interrogation room. It's easy to picture it, sitting the poor boy down and shining a bright lamp into his eyes as they questioned him. And since he said dungeon, maybe have little braces on the armrests to shackle his wrists with, just to make him really feel at home. Sorry, might be letting my imagination get the best of me here. Joseph further explained that he was simply made to wait there for 20 minutes, which I can only imagine felt much longer than that in this kind of a circumstance. From there, he was called up to the desk and asked why he wanted to be in the United States. That would be when he gave the honest answer that he was in fact going to be a guest on The Tonight Show, and that he was there to meet Jimmy Fallon. The man didn't buy it, and if there wasn't someone nearby who recognized him, it'd be easy to see that they might not have released him anytime soon, possibly even forcing him to miss his appearance on the show. So just how did his Stranger Things character end up helping him out of this jam? Earlier, we suggested that the guards weren't up to snuff on Stranger Things, but that's actually not true. The more pressing thing here is that when Quinn's out and about, he's got his hair done up all prim and proper and cut short, and generally looks a lot more clean cut than his character on the show. As such, they had a hard time recognizing him. Joseph continued the story by saying that while the man at the desk didn't believe him, when his colleague looked over, he had a very different reaction, saying, quote, "Leave Eddie alone." Sounds like something a group of fans might chant as they surround the scene with picket signs, doesn't it? The man explained to his coworker that this was indeed Eddie from Stranger Things, to which the other man humorously replied, "You're Eddie Munson?" From there, it's clear the conversation turned much more casual. The guard guards asked him if he was going to be coming back in the next season, to which Joseph replied that he didn't really know for sure. To this, the man said, "You'd better," as he handed Joseph the passport. The implication here is pretty obvious. Him being allowed in the United States is on the condition that he be involved in Stranger Things Season 5. Keep in mind that these agents aren't allowed to lie about things like this, so if he doesn't end up making a return, it's very likely that it'll be right back to the dungeon with him next time. No pressure. Is there any other news regarding Joseph Quinn or Stranger Things? We know that Quinn will be featured in a prominent role in Horde, an indie feature film said to be a drama set in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, both decades. That probably just means that there's some flashbacks sprinkled in there, but putting it like that makes it sound like the story actively jumps between the two decades a lot, doesn't it? This is the feature film debut for director Luna Carmoon, who up to this point had directed a couple of shorts. Producers describe Luna as a true auteur who has apparently called Horde a body horror of the mind. That is not a thing. In fact, it's almost actively self-contradictory, but it does paint a picture of being a scary mind freak of a film. According to IMDb, this film is in the post-production stage, which means it shouldn't be too far off from release now. Stranger Things Season 5 is under production as we speak, although all signs point to it being a long while before we actually get to see it. David Harbour, one of the actors on the show, paints a picture of a very slow process for the show's development. He explained to QC in an interview in July that the writers would finish their work on the show this year, the filming would likely begin in 2023, and from there, the show would actually be released in 2024. Certainly not the quickest turnaround in the TV business, but you can't rush a quality product, I suppose. It's probably chalked up to the special effects, many of which are practical. Animatronics certainly aren't made overnight, after all. It is known that Season 5 is going to be the final season. They say that they planned out the story arc to potentially wrap up in either 4 or 5 seasons, and eventually came to the conclusion that the story had become too big for just 4. But they made clear when the renewal was announced that Season 4 would be the penultimate season, leading into the big climax for the next one. In this era of great sequelization and renewals, time will only tell if they're able to keep their word on that, but all the same, expect big things in Season 5. And that's all the time we have for today's video. Were you surprised to hear this story? Disappointed by the fact that these guards are clearly not up to date with their Netflix shows? Wishing that you too were famous enough to earn a get out of jail free card in these situations? Are there any other stories like this you'd like to see us cover? Be sure to let us know down in the comments below, and until next time, thanks for watching.